Admiral Vextel floated in his command chamber aboard the research vessel Harmony's Edge, his crystalline body pulsing with soft blue light. The bridge hummed with peaceful energy as his crew went about their daily tasks. They had been exploring this quiet sector of space for 3 cycles, mapping new star systems and cataloging planets that might support life. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Lyranda from her station, "we are receiving a strange signal from the 3rd planet of that yellow star system." Vextal drifted over to examine the readings. The signal was crude and simple compared to Zephyrian technology, but it was clearly artificial. Someone was calling for help. "What kind of signal is it?" he asked. "It appears to be a distress call, sir. The pattern repeats every few minutes. The language is unknown, but the mathematical sequences suggest intelligence." Admiral Vextal made his decision quickly. The Zephyrians had always been known throughout the galaxy as peaceful explorers and diplomats. They had made first contact with dozens of species, always with success. This would be no different. "Set course for the blue planet," he ordered. "Prepare the standard first contact protocols. Another species is about to join the galactic community." 3 days later, the Aurora Dawn drifted silently through space near Earth's moon. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the main view screen. His ship was humanity's newest exploration vessel, built to push the boundaries of human space travel. They had been testing new engine systems when a power failure left them stranded. "Any luck with the repairs, Ryan?" Jake asked his chief engineer. Lieutenant Ryan Phillips looked up from his console, wiping grease from his hands. "The main drive is still offline, Captain, but I've got the backup systems working. We should be able to limp home in a few days." "Good work. Lisa, any response to our distress signal?" Commander Lisa Brooks shook her head. "Nothing from Earth Command yet, sir. The signal is broadcasting, but we're pretty far out. It might take time to reach anyone." Captain Morrison nodded. Space was vast and empty. They knew the risks when they volunteered for deep space missions. But humans had always been explorers, always pushing into the unknown despite the dangers. "Contact, sir," Lisa suddenly called out. "Large vessel approaching from the outer system. It's not human design." The bridge fell silent. Jake felt his heart rate increase, but he kept his voice calm. "Red alert. All hands to stations. Lisa, try to establish communication." "Yes, sir. Broadcasting on all frequencies." On the main screen, a graceful ship approached them. It looked like it was made of crystal and light, beautiful and clearly advanced. Jake had dreamed of this moment his entire life. First contact with an alien species. The Harmony's Edge moved closer to the human vessel, and Admiral Vextal studied the crude metal construction with curiosity. These beings had somehow achieved spaceflight with such primitive materials. How remarkable. "Admiral, we are receiving their communication attempts," Lyranda reported. "Shall I respond?" "Yes. Open a channel. Use the standard greeting protocols." The main view screen on the Aurora Dawn flickered to life, showing the bridge of the alien ship. The humans stared in wonder at the floating, crystalline being that appeared before them. "Greetings, travelers," Admiral Vextal said, his words translated by advanced computers. "I am Admiral Vextal of the Zephyrian Exploration Fleet. We received your distress signal and have come to assist." Jake stepped forward, trying to project confidence and peace. "Admiral Vextal, I am Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Aurora Dawn. We are honored by your presence. This is humanity's first contact with another intelligent species." "Humanity," Vextal repeated, testing the word. "From the 3rd planet. You are the first of your kind to achieve space travel?" "Yes, sir. We've only been exploring beyond our home system for a few years now." Vextal felt pleased. Another young species taking its first steps into the galaxy. The Zephyrians would guide them, as they had guided so many others. "Captain Morrison, would you be willing to demonstrate your species' capabilities? We find it helpful to understand new civilizations before formal contact protocols begin." Jake looked around at his crew. This seemed like a reasonable request. "Certainly, Admiral. What would you like to see?" "Perhaps your defensive systems. Most species develop protection methods as they explore dangerous space. Jake nodded. It made sense that a peaceful species would want to know they weren't dealing with pirates or warlike beings. Ryan, bring our weapon systems online, standard defensive configuration. Aye, Captain, Ryan said, his fingers dancing across his control panel. Plasma cannons charging, missile tubes loaded, defensive screens at full power. On the Zephyrian ship, the mood changed instantly. Liranda's crystalline form flickered with alarm as her sensors detected the human weapons coming online. Admiral, she whispered, their weapons output is extraordinary. These systems are designed for maximum destruction. Admiral Vextal watched in growing horror as the human vessel bristled with weapon systems. The energy readings were beyond anything the peaceful Zephyrians had ever encountered. These weren't defensive systems. They were instruments of war. Captain Morrison, Jake continued, unaware of the alien's reaction. Would you like to see our tactical protocols? Ryan, show them Formation Delta. The Aurora Dawn's sister ships, which had been holding position nearby, suddenly moved into an attack formation that surrounded the Zephyrian vessel. To the humans, it was a simple demonstration of coordinated movement. To the Zephyrians, it looked like a trap. Admiral, Lyranda cried out. They have surrounded us, multiple vessels with similar weapon signatures. On the human bridge, Jake noticed the aliens seemed agitated. Admiral Vextal, is everything all right? We're just showing you our standard exploration formation. But Admiral Vextal wasn't listening to the translation anymore. He was staring at tactical displays that showed human weapons capable of destroying entire cities. He watched formations that could only be designed for one purpose: the complete destruction of enemy forces. Lisa, Jake said quietly, ask them about their defensive capabilities. Maybe we can share technology. Lisa nodded and opened the communication channel. Admiral Vextal, our captain would like to know about your species' military technology. Perhaps we can exchange defensive knowledge. The word military sent a shock through the Zephyrian crew. They had no military. They had never needed one. War was a concept so alien to them that they had no equivalent word in their language. Military, Admiral Vextal whispered. They have organized violence as an institution? Navigator Zenkar floated, over to his admiral, fear evident in his pulsing light patterns. Sir, their database transmissions show historical records. These beings have fought wars for thousands of years. They have perfected the art of killing their own kind. Admiral Vextal made his decision. Emergency jump, full retreat. Send immediate warnings to all galactic territories. Wait, Jake called, out as he saw the alien ship beginning to glow with energy. Admiral, we want to establish peaceful relations. But the Harmony's edge vanished in a flash of light, leaving the human ships alone in space. What just happened? Ryan asked, staring. At empty space, I think, Jake said slowly. We scared them. Lisa shook her head in confusion. But we were trying to be friendly. Maybe, Jake said. Friendly means something different to them. Far across space, Admiral Vextal was already composing his emergency message to the Galactic Council. He had encountered the most dangerous species in the universe, beings who had turned violence into science, who spoke of military organization as casually as others discussed art. These humans were a threat that could destroy everything the galaxy had built. He began his report with shaking hands. Emergency. Alert. Hostile species discovered. Immediate quarantine recommended. These beings must never be allowed to spread beyond their home system. The message raced across the galaxy at faster-than-light speeds, carrying with it humanity's first reputation among the stars. Not as explorers or scientists or dreamers, but as the most terrifying warriors the universe had ever seen. The Great Hall of Nexus Prime buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 47 different species gathered for an emergency session. The massive crystal dome above them sparkled with starlight, but the mood below was dark and fearful. Ambassador Kethmore of the Crystalline Collective stood at the center podium, his rock-like body glowing with urgent red patterns. Fellow beings of the galaxy, Kethmore began, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We face a threat unlike any we have encountered in our 1,000 years of peace. Admiral Vextel's report from the Outer Rim brings news that chills my core." The assembled aliens leaned forward as Kethmore activated the holographic display. Images from the Harmony's edge showed the human ships in their tactical formation, weapons systems glowing with deadly energy. "These creatures call themselves humans," Kethmore continued. "They come from the third planet of a yellow star system. But do not let their primitive appearance fool you. What you see here is pure, organized violence." A ripple of fear passed through the chamber. The ethereal minds, beings of pure psychic energy, flickered with distress. The gentle giants of Kepler 442 moaned softly, their massive forms trembling. Even the ancient tree speakers rustled their leaves in alarm. Senator Quilara of the Peaceful Federation rose from her seat. "Surely this is an exaggeration. No species can be purely violent. There must be some mistake." "I thought so too," Kethmore replied grimly. "Until I studied their transmissions more carefully. These beings broadcast their history freely. They have fought wars for over 5,000 of their years, wars that killed millions of their own kind." The chamber erupted in shocked gasps and cries. The concept of killing one's own species was so alien to most galactic civilizations that many representatives struggled to understand what they were hearing. 3 days after Admiral Vextel's emergency message reached Earth, Dr. Amy Carter stood in the briefing room of the newly constructed Space Command headquarters. Around the table sat the best minds humanity could gather: negotiator Peter Johnson, security chief Kevin Turner, and linguist Dr. Robert Hayes. "The alien message was clear," Dr. Carter said, adjusting her glasses as she read from her tablet. "They want to meet with us. They're calling it a peaceful evaluation of our species." Peter Johnson, a man who had spent 20 years resolving international conflicts, looked skeptical. "That doesn't sound peaceful to me. It sounds like we're on trial." "Maybe we are," Kevin Turner said quietly. The former Marine had seen enough combat to recognize when someone was sizing up an enemy. "The question is, what are we being accused of?" Dr. Carter pulled up the translation of the alien message on the main screen. "They mention our violent capabilities and concerning military structure. I think they're afraid of us." "Afraid of us?" Peter laughed. "We can barely get a ship beyond our own moon without something breaking down." "Fear isn't always rational," Kevin replied. "Maybe they saw our weapons and got the wrong idea." 2 weeks later, the small human delegation arrived at Nexus Prime aboard the diplomatic vessel Olive Branch. Dr. Carter stared out the viewport at the massive space station, its crystal spires stretching for kilometers in all directions. Thousands of ships from different worlds docked at its ports, creating a stunning display of galactic diversity. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Peter Johnson stood beside her, but his expression was worried. "Look at all those ships, Amy. How many of them are here because they're afraid of us?" The docking process was tense. Alien security forces surrounded their small ship, keeping their distance but clearly ready for trouble. As the humans disembarked, they were met by a group of crystalline beings who scanned them with strange devices. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," said their guide, a tall being with multiple arms and eyes. "I am Coordinator Velnesh. You will be taken to the council chamber immediately." The walk through the station's corridors was unlike anything the humans had ever experienced. Beings of every shape and size stopped to stare at them. Some retreated quickly while others whispered in languages the translation devices couldn't handle. The fear was obvious. "They're all scared," Kevin muttered to Peter. "Look at how they react when they see us." "This is worse than I thought," Peter replied. The council chamber was vast, with seating for hundreds of representatives. As the humans entered, a hush fell over the assembled aliens. Dr. Carter felt the weight of countless eyes upon her as she walked to the designated platform. In the center, Ambassador Kethmore stood to address them. "Humans of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Council to answer questions about your species' nature and intentions." Dr. Carter stepped forward, trying to project calm confidence. Thank you, Ambassador Kethmore. We come in peace, hoping to establish friendly relations with all species. Peace? Kethmore's rocky form glowed brighter. Your transmissions tell a different story. Show them the evidence. The holographic display activated, showing scenes from human history. Battle scenes from World War II. Nuclear explosions. Modern military exercises. The aliens watched in horrified silence as humanity's capacity for warfare was laid bare. You call this peace? Demanded Senator Quillara. Your species has perfected the art of mass destruction, Dr. Carter tried to explain. Those are historical events. We've learned from our mistakes. We've grown beyond our violent past. Have you? Kethmore challenged. Your current military shows advanced weapons capable of destroying entire planets. You maintain armies, navies, and air forces. You have weapons that could kill millions in minutes. Peter Johnson stepped forward. Yes, we have weapons, but we also have laws, treaties, and international agreements that prevent their use. We've had nuclear weapons for decades and haven't used them in war since we first created them. The ethereal minds flickered with confusion. One of them spoke in a voice like whispered wind. You possess the power to destroy your own world, yet you choose not to? This makes no sense. It makes perfect sense, Dr. Carter replied. We've learned that some powers are too dangerous to use. We keep them only to prevent others from using theirs. This explanation caused an uproar in the chamber. The concept of mutually assured destruction was so foreign to the peaceful species that many couldn't comprehend it. You hold your own species hostage? Gasped a representative from the Harmony Worlds. You threaten to destroy everyone to prevent anyone from fighting. It's more complex than that, Peter tried to explain, but the damage was done. Kevin Turner whispered to Dr. Carter, We're making this worse. Everything we say makes us sound more dangerous. Dr. Carter realized he was right. When she mentioned that humans had fought 2 world wars, the aliens seemed to go into shock. When Peter explained the concept of military deterrence, they looked terrified. When Kevin casually mentioned that every human nation maintained armed forces, several alien representatives actually left the chamber. The worst moment came when Dr. Carter tried to put human history in perspective. War is part of our past, but so is art, music, literature, and love. We've created beautiful things alongside terrible ones. You speak of love and war in the same breath, observed Elder Zinthera of the Ancient Ones, as if they are equally normal to your kind. Well, they are human experiences, Dr. Carter admitted. Humans are capable of great good and great evil. We choose which path to follow. The chamber fell silent. The idea that a species could consciously choose between good and evil while possessing the power to destroy worlds was beyond their understanding. Ambassador Kethmore spoke slowly, as if each word pained him. You admit that your species possesses the knowledge and tools for genocide, yet you claim this is normal. You say you choose not to use these weapons, but you keep them ready. You describe war as a natural part of your development. We're not monsters, Dr. Carter protested. We're explorers, scientists, artists. We want to learn and grow and make friends among the stars. Friends, repeated Senator Quillara quietly, with weapons pointed at everyone's backs. The session ended abruptly when several alien representatives began showing signs of psychological distress. The ethereal minds flickered and vanished from the chamber. The gentle giants wept openly. Even the stoic tree speakers began dropping, their leaves in what appeared to be a panic response. As the humans were escorted back to their ship, Kevin Turner shook his head in disbelief. I've seen some difficult negotiations, but never one where trying to be honest made us look worse. They don't understand us, Dr. Carter said sadly. And I'm beginning to think we don't understand them either. Peter Johnson watched the alien faces as they passed. Fear, horror, and disgust were written clearly in their expressions. We came here to make friends. Instead, I think we just convinced the entire galaxy that we're their worst nightmare. Back in the council chamber, the emergency vote was swift and unanimous. Humanity would be quarantined in their home system. No human ship would be allowed to leave, and no alien vessel would approach Earth. But privately, many representatives were already discussing a more permanent solution. Some threats were too dangerous to simply contain. Dr. Zilneth adjusted the scanning equipment one more time, her 6 delicate arms working in perfect coordination. The hidden observation post on the dark side of Earth's moon had been operational for 3 weeks now, and what she had learned about humans terrified her more each day. Recording session 47 beginning, she spoke into her device. Subject species continues to display unprecedented levels of organized violence mixed with incomprehensible compassion. Today we observe military training exercises in the desert region they call Nevada. Around her, the other members of the academic hierarchy research team monitored their instruments. Scholar Nimbeth tracked human communication patterns while researcher Kolvex analyzed their technology. All of them had volunteered for this dangerous mission to study the most feared species in the galaxy. The subjects are moving into formation, reported Nimbeth, his feathered form rustling with nervousness. 17 armed individuals approaching the training zone. Far below on Earth's surface, Marine Colonel Steve Walsh watched his soldiers prepare for the day's exercise. The desert heat was already building, but his Marines were ready. Today's training focused on rescue operations in hostile territory. Listen up, Colonel Walsh called to his troops. Today we're practicing extraction under fire. Sergeant Nicole Brown's team will be the rescue unit. Corporal Danny Martinez's squad will play the hostiles. Remember, this is training, but I want it to look real. The aliens watched through their advanced scanners as the humans began their exercise. To the observers, it looked like the most sophisticated military operation they had ever witnessed. The humans moved with precision, communicating through hand signals and coordinated tactics. Look at their formation, whispered researcher Kolvex. Every movement is calculated for maximum killing efficiency. They advance like a predator species, hunting prey. Sergeant Nicole Brown led her team across the rocky terrain, her rifle ready. She had been a Marine for 8 years and knew these exercises were crucial for real-world situations. Lives depended on this training. Contact front, called one of her soldiers as the opposing team opened fire with training rounds. The sharp crack of blanks echoed across the desert. Take cover, Nicole shouted, diving behind a large rock. Martinez, flank left. Johnson, suppressing fire on that ridge. The aliens recorded every moment as the humans engaged in their mock battle. What they saw was terrifying coordination, humans working together like parts of a killing machine, each soldier knowing exactly what the others would do. They fight as one mind, Dr. Zilneth muttered. Individual consciousness merged into collective violence. This is beyond anything, we theorized. The training exercise continued for an hour. The humans practiced urban warfare, desert combat, and rescue operations. They moved through scenarios that would have been nightmares for any peaceful species to even imagine. Then something unexpected happened. During a complex rescue scenario, Corporal Martinez stumbled while running between cover positions. The loose desert sand gave way beneath his feet and he tumbled down a steep slope, his ankle twisting with a sharp crack. Martinez is down, someone called out. Immediately, the exercise stopped. Every human in the area rushed toward their fallen. Comrade? Sergeant Nicole Brown reached him first, sliding down the slope without regard for her own safety. The aliens watched in confusion as the humans' behavior completely changed. The disciplined warriors became concerned friends and medical responders. My ankle, Martinez gasped, his face pale with pain. I think it's broken. Don't worry, Danny, Nicole said gently, kneeling beside him. We'll get you out of here. She looked up at her fellow Marines. I need the medical kit. Someone call for a helicopter and be careful getting down here. The ground is unstable. Private Tim Johnson carefully made his way down the slope, carrying the medical supplies. Is he going to be okay, Sergeant? He'll be fine, Nicole replied, checking Martinez's injury with gentle hands. Just a bad sprain, I think, but we're not taking any chances. Dr. Zilneth stared at her instruments in disbelief. Scholar Nimbeth, are you recording this? Yes, Doctor, but I don't understand what I'm seeing. The humans had gone from perfect military precision to tender care in seconds. Colonel Walsh arrived at the scene and immediately took charge of the rescue operation, but his concern for his injured soldier was obvious. "How's he doing, Sergeant Brown?" "He'll be okay, sir, but he needs proper medical attention." "Helicopter is 2 minutes out," reported another Marine. "Landing zone is clear." As they waited for medical help, the Marines gathered around Martinez, joking and talking to keep his spirits up. Someone produced a bottle of water. Another soldier used his jacket to shade Martinez from the desert sun. "You know what this means, Danny," joked Sergeant Brown. "You get to ride back to base in style while we walk." Martinez managed a weak smile. "Always looking for the easy way out, right, Sarge?" The rescue helicopter arrived quickly, and the Marines worked together to safely evacuate their injured comrade. They formed a human chain to pass Martinez up the slope, each person ensuring he wasn't dropped or further injured. The aliens watched this display of human cooperation and care with growing confusion. These were the same beings who had been practicing warfare just minutes before. Now they risked their own safety to help one injured person. "This makes no sense," muttered researcher Colvex. "Why do they care so much about one individual? From a tactical standpoint, he's become a liability." Dr. Zilnith was quiet for a long moment, studying the readings. "Perhaps this is how they maintain unit cohesion. They care for each other to ensure loyalty in battle." But even as she said it, she wasn't convinced. The humans' concern seemed genuine, not calculated. They acted like they truly cared about Martinez as a person, not just as a soldier. Meanwhile, on the other side of Earth, NASA scientist Dr. Tony Martinez was having a very different kind of day. He sat in the Space Monitoring Center staring at unusual readings on his screen. "Helen, come look at this," he called to his colleague, systems analyst Helen Ross. Helen walked over, her coffee still steaming in her hands. "What have you got?" "Tony? These energy signatures near the moon. They've been showing up for weeks now, but today they're stronger. Almost like something is actively scanning us." Helen studied the data, her expression growing serious. "This isn't natural. These patterns are too regular, too focused. Someone is watching us." "That's what I'm thinking, but who? And why?" They spent the next several hours analyzing the signals, using every tool at their disposal. The patterns were clearly artificial, but unlike any human technology. The energy signatures suggested extremely advanced scanning equipment. "Tony," Helen said quietly, "what if it's them? The aliens who contacted Captain Morrison? The ones who ran away? Why would they come back? Maybe they didn't really leave. Maybe they're studying us." Dr. Martinez felt a chill run down his spine. If aliens were watching Earth, what were they learning? What did they think of humanity? "We need to report this to Space Command," he said. "And we need to figure out exactly where these signals are coming from." Back on the moon, Dr. Zilnith was composing her daily report to the Galactic Council. Each day her findings became more disturbing, not less. "The humans continue to display contradictory behavior that defies classification," she dictated. "They are capable of sophisticated military tactics and show no hesitation in practicing violence. Yet they also demonstrate deep emotional attachment to their fellow humans, even risking their own safety for others." She paused, struggling to find words for what she had observed. "Most troubling is their apparent ability to switch between these modes instantly. They can be warriors one moment and caregivers the next. This suggests a level of behavioral control that makes them unpredictable and therefore extremely dangerous." The recording continued for another hour as Dr. Zilneth detailed every aspect of human behavior she had witnessed: their technology, their social structures, their capacity for both violence and compassion. Recommendation: immediate increase in security measures around human space. These beings are more dangerous than our initial report suggested, not because they are mindlessly violent, but because they are intelligently violent. They choose when to fight and when to help, which makes them impossible to predict or control. As she finished her report, Dr. Zilnith noticed something on her instruments. The human scanning equipment was getting stronger, more focused. They were looking for something. "Scholar Nimbeth," she called urgently. "I think the humans know we're here." On Earth, Dr. Martinez and Helen Ross had pinpointed the source of the energy signatures, Their findings were alarming. It's definitely on the moon's dark side, Helen confirmed. The signals are too strong and too focused to be anything else. Someone has built a base there. A base to watch us, Tony added grimly. The question is, what do we do about it? The two scientists stared at their data, realizing they had discovered something that could change everything. Humanity was being studied like laboratory animals, and whoever was doing the studying had been at it for weeks. The stage was set for another confrontation, but this time, the humans would be prepared. Dr. Zilneth's emergency report reached the Galactic Council just as the weekly assembly was beginning. Ambassador Kethmore read the findings with growing alarm, his crystalline form flickering between red and orange patterns of distress. The situation is worse than we feared, he announced to the gathered representatives. Our researchers have confirmed that humans are not simply violent. They are strategically violent. They can choose when to kill and when to save, making them the most unpredictable threat the galaxy has ever faced. Senator Quilara of the Peaceful Federation rose from her seat, her flowing robes trembling. How can a species be selectively violent? This concept is beyond our understanding. That is precisely what makes them so dangerous, Kethmore replied. They possess the tactical intelligence to use violence as a tool rather than an instinct. They can appear peaceful while planning war. Across the galaxy, military fleets began moving for the first time in centuries. The warrior clans of Proxima, who had not assembled for battle in over 500 years, activated their ancient war machines. The Hive collectives started building defensive networks around their home worlds. Even the mysterious Ancient Watchers emerged from their 1,000-year isolation to address what they called the greatest threat to galactic peace. Commander Velthara of the Proxima clans stood before her assembled fleet of 300 warships. Her species had once been warriors, but they had chosen peace long ago. Now, faced with the human threat, they were remembering their old ways. Warriors of Proxima, she broadcast to her fleet. We face an enemy unlike any we have ever known. They have turned war into science and peace into deception. We must be ready for anything. Her officers, many of whom had never seen combat, listened with nervous attention. Lieutenant Kexmar raised a concern. Commander, what if the humans try to negotiate? Their reports suggest they speak of peace even while preparing for war. That is exactly what makes them so dangerous, Velthara replied. We cannot trust their words because they have mastered the art of lying while planning attacks. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Jennifer Adams sat in the Situation Room with her top advisors. The intelligence report spread across the table painted a frightening picture of galactic mobilization. How many ships are we talking about? She asked General Rick Powell, her military advisor. Conservative estimates put it at over 10,000 vessels, Madam President. They're positioning fleets at strategic points around our solar system. It looks like they're planning to contain us. Intelligence Director Catherine Price leaned forward. It's worse than containment, ma'am. Our deep space sensors are picking up weapon signatures that could destroy entire planets. They're not just trying to keep us here. They're preparing to eliminate us if we try to leave. President Adams felt the weight of humanity's future on her shoulders. What did we do wrong? Our first contact was peaceful. Our diplomatic mission was honest. Maybe that's the problem, suggested Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the president's science advisor. Maybe honesty was the wrong approach with species that have never experienced war. General Powell nodded grimly. When we told them about our military capabilities, they saw it as a threat instead of transparency. When we explained our history of warfare, they interpreted it as a promise of future violence. The president stood and walked to the window, looking out at the peaceful Washington skyline. So the entire galaxy thinks we're monsters because we were honest about being human. Across the ocean, Lieutenant Oliver King was working frantically in the communications center of the European Space Agency. For weeks, he had been trying to establish dialogue with the alien vessels that appeared briefly at the edge of human space before fleeing in apparent terror. This is Earth calling unknown vessel, he broadcast on all frequencies. We seek peaceful communication. Please respond. For a moment, there was silence. Then a crackling voice came through the speakers, filled with fear and suspicion. Human. Ship, why do you pursue us? We have done nothing to provoke your aggression. Oliver felt a surge of hope mixed with confusion. We're not pursuing anyone. We're trying to establish communication. We want to understand why there seems to be fear between our species. You seek to understand our weaknesses, the alien voice replied. You study our retreat patterns to plan your attacks. We will not be deceived by your false peaceful words. That's not true, Oliver protested. We're explorers and scientists. We want to be friends. Friends do not maintain weapons capable of destroying worlds. Friends do not practice warfare for entertainment. Friends do not speak of nuclear fire as a diplomatic tool. The communication ended abruptly, leaving Oliver staring at his silent equipment. Every attempt at peaceful contact only seemed to make things worse. In deep space, Supreme Commander Velthara reviewed the final deployment reports from her assembled fleets. Ships from 47 different species had joined the containment operation. Never before in galactic history had so many civilizations united for a single purpose. All sectors report ready, announced her aide, Captain Morden. The human solar system is completely surrounded. No vessel can enter or leave without our knowledge. Velthara studied the tactical display showing thousands of ships in perfect formation around Earth's star system. And if they attempt to break containment? Phase 1 involves non-lethal weapons to disable their ships. If that fails, we proceed to planetary bombardment protocols. The words felt strange coming from species that had known only peace for generations. But the human threat had awakened something primal in the galaxy's collective consciousness. The fear of total destruction had united them as nothing else ever could. Back on Earth, the situation grew more tense by the hour. Captain Rachel Young stood on the bridge of the newly constructed starship Starlight Bridge, humanity's most advanced vessel. She was preparing for what might be humanity's last attempt at peaceful contact. All systems check out, reported her engineering officer, Lieutenant Carl Davis. We're as ready as we can be. Dr. Sam Turner, the ship's anthropologist, looked nervous as he reviewed his notes. Captain, I've studied every piece of communication we've received from them. They genuinely believe we're an existential threat to all life in the galaxy. But we're not, Captain Young replied. We're just people trying to find our place among the stars. That's what we have to convince them of, said Commander Patricia Lane, the ship's former military strategist. The problem is, every time we try to explain ourselves, we make things worse. The Starlight Bridge undocked from Earth's orbital station and began its journey toward the neutral zone where alien fleets waited. As they traveled, reports continued to arrive about the massive military buildup surrounding human space. Captain, called Communications Officer Janet Hill, we're receiving multiple warnings from alien vessels. They're ordering us to turn back or face destruction. Ignore the warnings, Captain Young ordered. We're going to the neutral zone. They agreed to meet us there. But even as they traveled toward what they hoped would be a peaceful resolution, both sides were preparing for the worst. The aliens had convinced themselves that any human ship leaving Earth's vicinity was the beginning of an invasion. The humans were beginning to realize that their very existence was seen as a threat to galactic peace. On the bridge of the Harmony's edge, Admiral Vextal monitored the human ship's approach with growing anxiety. This single vessel was heading directly toward the largest military fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Admiral, his communications officer reported, the humans are broadcasting messages of peace. They say they want to negotiate. Of course they do, Vextal replied bitterly. It's exactly what we would expect from such a cunning species. They send one ship to appear peaceful while preparing their war fleets behind them. Should we attack? Admiral, Vextal hesitated. The decision could determine the fate of two civilizations. Not yet. Let them come. But the moment they show any sign of aggression, we destroy them all. The stage was set for a confrontation that could either save two civilizations or destroy them both. In the vast emptiness of space, thousands of alien warships waited to face a single human vessel, carrying humanity's last hope for peace. The misunderstanding that had started with a simple demonstration of defensive capabilities had grown into the greatest military crisis the galaxy had ever seen. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, the future of all intelligent life hung in the balance. The Starlight Bridge moved slowly through space toward the massive alien fleet, its single hull dwarfed by thousands of warships waiting in the darkness. Captain Rachel Young stood on her bridge, knowing that the next few hours would determine whether humanity joined the galactic community or faced extinction. "Captain, we're receiving targeting signals from multiple alien vessels," reported Communications Officer Janet Hill, her voice tight with tension. "They have weapons locked on us." "Maintain course and speed," Captain Young ordered calmly. "Continue. Broadcasting our peaceful intentions on all frequencies." Dr. Sam Turner checked his translation equipment one more time. "Rachel, I've been thinking about this all wrong. We keep trying to explain why we're not dangerous, but that only makes us sound more dangerous to them." "What do you mean?" asked Commander Patricia Lane. "Think about it. Every time we mention our weapons, our military, or our history of war, we confirm their worst fears. We need to show them something they can understand." Captain Young nodded slowly. "What did you have in mind, Sam? Not what we can destroy, but what we choose to create. Not our capacity for war, but our dedication to peace." Far ahead, aboard the command ship Eternal Harmony, Supreme Commander Velthara watched the approaching human vessel with suspicion. Around her, representatives from dozens of species monitored every sensor reading. "The human ship maintains its approach," reported her tactical officer. "No sign of additional vessels, but their stealth technology could be hiding an entire fleet." "Remain alert," Velthara commanded. "These creatures are too cunning to send only one ship unless it's part of a larger plan." Ambassador Kethmore floated beside the command console, his crystalline form pulsing with nervous energy. "Perhaps we should attack now, before they can spring their trap." "No," Velthara replied. "We will honor the agreement to meet in neutral space, but the moment they show aggression, we will end this threat forever." The Starlight Bridge entered the designated neutral zone, a region of empty space equidistant between the alien fleet and human territory. Captain Young ordered all weapon systems powered down and opened a communication channel. "This is Captain Rachel Young of the Earth vessel Starlight Bridge. We request permission to come aboard the Station Harmony Point for peaceful negotiations." The response came from Admiral Vextal himself. "Permission granted, but be warned. Any sign of treachery will result in the immediate destruction of your vessel and the quarantine of your entire system." "Understood, Admiral. We come in peace." The ancient Station Harmony Point had been built centuries ago as a neutral meeting place for diplomatic encounters. Its vast halls had hosted the peaceful resolution of countless conflicts, but never had it faced a challenge like this one. Captain Young, Dr. Turner, and Commander Lane were escorted through corridors filled with alien representatives. The fear was obvious in every gesture and glance. Some beings retreated when the humans approached. Others whispered in their native languages, words that the translation devices couldn't fully capture but whose meaning was clear. The main conference chamber held representatives from 47 species, all arranged in a defensive formation around a central platform. The humans were directed to stand in the middle, surrounded by potential enemies. Supreme Commander Velthara spoke first. "Humans of Earth, you stand accused of being a threat to galactic peace. Your species possesses weapons of mass destruction, maintains organized military forces, and has a documented history of planetary warfare. How do you answer these charges?" Captain Young took a deep breath. "Commander Velthara, we don't deny any of those facts. Yes, we have weapons. Yes, we have armies. Yes, we have fought wars. But we're not here to defend those things. We're here to show you what we've chosen to do instead." The chamber erupted in confused murmurs. Ambassador Kethmore's form flickered with alarm. "Instead, you admit to being everything we feared?" "We admit to being human." Dr. Turner stepped forward. "And being human means having the capacity for both creation and destruction. The important thing is which one we choose." Commander Lane activated a holographic display that showed images from Earth. But instead of military exercises or weapons demonstrations, It showed something different. Children playing in parks, scientists working together in laboratories, artists creating beautiful music and paintings, doctors healing the sick. This is also humanity, Captain Young said quietly. These are the same people who once fought wars, the same species that created weapons. But look what we choose to do with our time and energy now. The aliens stared at the images in confusion. Senator Quilara spoke hesitantly. But you still maintain your weapons. You still have your armies. Yes, Captain Young admitted. Because we've learned that peace isn't the absence of the ability to fight. Peace is the choice not to fight. When you could, Dr. Turner added more images to the display. We have nuclear weapons powerful enough to destroy our own planet. We've had them for over 80 years. In all that time, we've never used them in war. We could have destroyed ourselves 1,000 times over, but we chose not to. That makes no sense, whispered one of the ethereal minds. Why create weapons you never intend to use? Because sometimes the existence of terrible consequences prevents terrible actions, Commander Lane explained. We call it deterrence. The knowledge that war would destroy everything we love makes us choose peace instead. Admiral Vextal's crystalline form dimmed with confusion. You're saying you threatened destruction to preserve peace? We're saying we accepted the responsibility that comes with power, Captain Young replied. When you can destroy everything, you have to choose to protect everything instead. The chamber fell silent as the aliens tried to process this concept. The idea that a species could consciously choose restraint while possessing unlimited destructive power was foreign to their understanding. Then something unexpected happened. Alarms began sounding throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed as a massive solar storm, invisible to most sensors, began battering the ancient structure. Hull breach in Section 7, announced the station's automated systems. Life, support failing in multiple compartments. The alien representatives began to panic. Their ships were too far away to provide immediate assistance, and the station's old systems were failing rapidly. How many beings are trapped in Section 7? Captain Young asked quickly. 43, replied a station technician, his voice filled with despair. The bulkheads are sealed, but they won't hold long. Without hesitation, Captain Young turned to her crew. Patricia, get back to our ship. Bring the emergency repair equipment and every spare oxygen tank we have. Sam, help. Coordinate the evacuation. Captain, Commander Lane protested. Our orders were to negotiate, not conduct rescue operations. Our orders were to show them who we really are, Captain Young replied, already heading for the door. This is who we are. The next 3 hours transformed everything. The humans worked alongside alien engineers to repair the station's damaged systems. Captain Young personally led rescue teams into the damaged sections, risking her own life to save beings who had come here planning her species' destruction. Dr. Turner used his linguistic skills to help coordinate rescue efforts between species who couldn't communicate with each other. Commander Lane organized supply chains and medical stations with the efficiency that came from years of military training used for humanitarian purposes. The aliens watched in amazement as the humans demonstrated exactly what they had been trying to explain. These were beings capable of incredible destruction, who chose instead to preserve life. Warriors who used their training to save rather than kill. When the crisis was over and all 43 trapped beings had been rescued, the conference chamber felt different. The fear was still there, but it was mixed with something else: respect and cautious hope. Supreme Commander Velthara spoke slowly. You risked your lives for beings you had never met, beings who came here planning your destruction. That's what people do, Captain Young replied simply. When someone needs help, you help them. It doesn't matter who they are or what they think of you. Admiral Vextal's form brightened with understanding. You could have used our moment of weakness to attack. Instead, you chose to save us. We chose to do what was right, Dr. Turner added. That's what we've been trying to tell you. Having the power to destroy doesn't mean you have to use it. Having the knowledge of war doesn't mean you have to choose war. The final negotiations took place over several days, with representatives from both sides working to establish what they called the Human Integration Protocol. It was agreed that humanity would be gradually introduced to galactic civilization with careful monitoring and cultural exchange programs. But the real breakthrough came when the Galactic Council offered humanity a unique role. Admiral Marcus Bell, who had arrived with a small fleet of Earth vessels, was invited to establish the first human Peace Corps, an organization dedicated to helping resolve conflicts between other species. Your reputation for controlled strength makes you ideal mediators, explained Ambassador Kethamore. Other species will listen to beings who could destroy them, but choose to help them instead. 6 months later, Captain Young stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned vessel Harmony's Promise, watching Human.